Gerrymandering is the process of drawing voting district boundaries in ways that can influence political outcomes before elections even happen. Now, we usually just think of maps as neutral geography, right? But these boundaries actually set the stage for our elections, dictating who holds power before a single vote is even cast. And this matters for everyday democracy right now, because this hidden map-making process determines whether your community gets its fair share of resources, representation, and a real voice in government. In everyday life, it's pretty easy to believe that elections are decided solely by the ballots we cast. You vote, they count the ballots, and someone wins. But the civic reality is quite different. Electoral outcomes are fundamentally shaped by structural maps drawn long before Election Day. Welcome to Social Civics, a channel where we break down the ideas, systems, and institutions that shape our civic life.
Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're exploring the hidden power of voting maps and decoding the system of gerrymandering. Our mission is to explain these concepts clearly, without jargon or bias, so you can see the mechanics operating just beneath the surface of our elections.
To really grasp this, we need to reframe the issue. Instead of just asking what gerrymandering is, we need to ask a much deeper civic question. How much power actually exists in deciding where political boundaries are drawn? Well, by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how district maps can shape representation, dictate policy, and impact our overall trust in democratic systems. So this practice has some really deep roots in American history. Back in 1789, Patrick Henry actually drew district lines in Virginia specifically to make it harder for James Madison to win a seat in Congress. It didn't actually work, Madison won anyway, but the idea spread. The term itself was coined in 1812 when Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry signed off on a map with a district so convoluted, observers joked it looked like a mythical salamander. You combine Gerry and salamander, and boom, you get gerrymander. Today, though, this 19th century trick has evolved into high-tech, data-driven redistricting.
Now, before we look at how maps are manipulated, it helps to understand the routine maintenance of them, which is called redistricting. Redistricting is just the mandated, periodic redrawing of congressional and state legislative district boundaries. You see, the U.S. Supreme Court requires a standard of one person, one vote, meaning districts have to be roughly equal in population, so that every single citizen has an equal voice. And here's why and when this happens. Step 1 is the decennial census. Every 10 years, the government counts the population. Since people move around over a decade, populations shift, making districts uneven. So step 2 is map redrawing, where they adjust the lines to ensure each district represents the exact same number of people. Then step 3 is holding elections in those new mathematically balanced districts. But that brings us to a really pivotal question. If redrawing maps is a legal necessity, what is the exact difference between normal redistricting and gerrymandering? Like, how does standard civic maintenance suddenly turn into structural manipulation? Well, the difference really comes down to intent. Normal redistricting is just a demographic necessity, updating boundaries for equal population representation. Gerrymandering, on the other hand, is the intentional, strategic rigging of those boundaries to favor specific political interests. It's taking a required demographic update and weaponizing it to secure a political advantage.
Seeing how these maps can be weaponized naturally leads us to ask, who usually controls the redistricting process? You know, who actually holds the pen when it comes time to draw these highly influential boundaries?
It turns out that in most parts of the United States, partisan state legislatures control the map-making process, often with the state governor having veto power. Because politicians are drawing the very maps that dictate their own elections, redistricting has pretty much always been a highly political exercise. Now, in recent years, some states have shifted this power to independent redistricting commissions to try and remove that conflict of interest, but legislatures still heavily dominate the process nationally. Now, what's absolutely fascinating is exactly how politicians manipulate these lines. The first primary tactic is called packing. Packing means concentrating a specific group's voters, like supporters of an opposing party, into a single supermajority district. Sure, they are absolutely guaranteed to win that one district, but all their surplus votes are completely wasted, effectively eliminating their influence in all the neighboring districts. The opposite technique is called cracking. And this involves diluting a specific group's voters across many different districts. By splitting a community into several pieces, mapmakers ensure that this group's voting power is numerically overwhelmed in every single district, preventing them from ever forming a voting majority anywhere. When used together, packing and cracking dictate representation mathematically. They dilute or concentrate voting power long before anyone even goes to the polls.
So instead of voters choosing their politicians, these structural models allow politicians to effectively choose their voters, insulating themselves from political pressure and guaranteeing safe seats. Seeing how incredibly effective this is, you might be wondering, is gerrymandering always illegal? Does drawing maps this way actually break the law? Well, the answer requires distinguishing between two very different types of gerrymandering in the eyes of the courts. There's a strict legal difference here. Racial gerrymandering, which is drawing lines to intentionally dilute the voting power of racial or ethnic minority groups, is generally illegal and violates the Federal Voting Rights Act. However, partisan gerrymandering, drawing lines specifically to dilute the power of an opposing political party, is treated entirely differently by the federal courts. In fact, the Supreme Court made a landmark ruling on this in a 2019 case called Rucho v. Common Cause. The court stated, partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of the federal courts. Simply put, the highest court ruled that federal judges will not police maps for partisan bias, leaving the issue entirely up to individual states and state courts to manage. So, what does this all mean for our communities? The everyday impacts are profound. Skewed legislative outcomes mean policies might not reflect the actual will of the public. Local communities can be completely ignored if their neighborhoods are cracked apart. And ultimately, this leads to a severe reduction in public trust. Some voters correctly feel their vote matters less, simply because of how their district was mathematically designed.
And there are other specific ways map rules can distort representation. One modern example that's really eye-opening is prison-based gerrymandering. This is the practice of counting incarcerated individuals as residents of the district where they are imprisoned, rather than their home communities. Since these individuals generally cannot vote, this artificially inflates the political power of the prison's district while draining representation away from the prisoner's actual hometowns. Given these structural distortions, what reforms or alternatives actually exist? How are people trying to fix these bugs in our democratic system? Let's take an objective look at some modern solutions. Several modern reforms are actively being used right now. Independent redistricting commissions put map drawing power into the hands of citizen commissioners rather than partisan legislators. Technologists are also stepping up, using mathematical simulation algorithms, like the sequential Monte Carlo method, to generate thousands of neutral maps by computer to test official plans for extreme bias. Finally, enhanced transparency regulations are forcing mapmakers to hold public hearings and actually justify their decisions.
So the crucial point here is this: we have to zoom out to the broader civic lesson. Why should ordinary citizens understand district mapping, even if they aren't political junkies? Because the true mechanics of democracy require looking at the invisible boundaries just as much as the visible ballot box. Democracy is influenced not only by the act of voting, but by how the electoral system is carefully structured long before you ever step into a voting booth. To sum it all up, voting matters immensely. But how voting maps are drawn can shape whose voices are amplified, whose communities are divided, and whose power is reduced. The structural design of the map holds an immense, quiet power. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. Are you choosing your representatives, or are they choosing you? If you're interested in learning more about the ideas and institutions that shape our civic life, consider subscribing to Social Civics. This channel exists to help everyday citizens better understand the systems we all live under. Thanks for watching.